Throughout human history, archaeologists have made discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about our past. Hidden in ancient ruins, buried beneath millennia of sediment, and locked away in forgotten chambers, artifacts have emerged that seem to defy the very timeline of technological progress. These objects possess capabilities that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of when certain technologies were developed. They demonstrate knowledge that was supposedly lost to time, or perhaps never existed at all. Today we examine 10 impossible objects that have been discovered in the wrong time periods. Each represents concrete evidence that ancient civilizations possessed capabilities far beyond what historians are willing to acknowledge. These aren't vague mysteries or ambiguous findings. They're measurable, testable artifacts that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of physics, engineering, and manufacturing techniques that challenge our fundamental assumptions about human development. Before we dive into these impossible discoveries, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we uncover evidence that challenges everything we thought we knew about our past. Now let's begin with our first impossible object, the Baghdad Battery. The first impossible object takes us to ancient Mesopotamia, where workers excavating near Baghdad in 1936 made a discovery that would fundamentally challenge our understanding of when electricity was first harnessed. Deep within ruins dating to approximately 200 BCE, they uncovered a clay vessel that appeared unremarkable at first glance. The jar stood roughly 5 inches tall and was sealed with a thick layer of asphalt. But when researchers examined its contents, they found something that shouldn't have existed for another 18 centuries. Inside the clay jar was a carefully constructed copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod. Chemical analysis revealed traces of an acidic substance that had once filled the vessel, most likely vinegar or fermented wine. When a curious researcher recognized the configuration as identical to a modern galvanic battery, he decided to test his theory. Using only materials that would have been available to ancient Mesopotamian craftsmen, he constructed a replica of the device. He filled it with grape juice to serve as the electrolyte and measured the output. The ancient jar produced a steady electrical current of approximately 1 to 2 volts. It wasn't just similar to a battery by coincidence. It was a functional electrical device, created over 1,800 years before Alessandro Volta would supposedly invent the first battery in 1800. The implications were staggering, but they raised an even more pressing question. If ancient civilizations possessed working batteries, what were they using them to power? Ancient texts from the same region contain intriguing references to divine lights that burned without flame in temple sanctuaries. These mysterious illumination sources were described as eternal flames that required no fuel and produced no smoke, characteristics that align perfectly with electric lighting. Archaeological examination of metal artifacts from the same time period has revealed evidence of electroplating, a process that requires sustained electrical current to deposit thin layers of precious metals onto base metal objects. The discovery wasn't isolated. Multiple similar devices have been found throughout the region, all following the same basic design principles. The consistency of construction suggests these weren't accidental creations or coincidental resemblances to modern technology. They were deliberately manufactured electrical devices built to specific standards for a particular purpose. Despite the clear evidence, mainstream archaeology has struggled to acknowledge what these artifacts represent. The official position maintains that the clay jars were designed to store papyrus scrolls, despite the copper cylinders being completely sealed and utterly unsuitable for such storage. When researchers have proposed analyzing residue within the vessels for evidence of electrochemical reactions, their requests have been systematically rejected or delayed indefinitely. The few scientists who have attempted serious investigation of these ancient batteries have found their work blocked by institutional resistance. Academic papers exploring the electrical properties of the devices have been rejected by journals, and funding for related research has been mysteriously withdrawn. Most disturbing of all, many of the original artifacts have vanished entirely. The most complete specimens that could have definitively proven the battery hypothesis were housed in museums that suffered damage during regional conflicts in 2003. The artifacts that could have rewritten our understanding of ancient technology are now lost forever. The pattern repeats across multiple archaeological sites where evidence of advanced ancient technology has been discovered. Physical artifacts that demonstrate capabilities beyond their supposed time periods are acknowledged to exist, photographed for documentation, and then quietly minimized or explained away, rather than thoroughly investigated. The message becomes clear. Some questions are considered too dangerous to pursue. If you're finding these discoveries as fascinating as we are, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got 9 more impossible objects to explore, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Ancient Egyptian precision drilling. Moving from electrical devices to precision engineering, we encounter artifacts that demonstrate manufacturing capabilities that shouldn't have existed thousands of years ago. Scattered throughout ancient Egyptian sites are stone objects displaying drilling techniques that modern engineers struggle to explain. These aren't crude holes laboriously carved with primitive tools. They're precision-engineered drill holes in granite, one of the hardest substances on Earth, showing evidence of high-speed machining and cutting rates that exceed what should be possible with bronze implements. The most compelling evidence comes from core samples that were extracted when the original holes were drilled. These cylindrical pieces of granite show distinctive spiral grooves with remarkably consistent spacing, indicating that the ancient drill advanced into solid stone at approximately 1 inch per revolution. This feed rate would be impressive even with modern diamond-tipped drilling equipment. Achieving it with hand tools would be physically impossible. Engineers who have examined these ancient cores note characteristics that can only be produced by mechanical drilling at consistent speed and pressure. Hand-operated tools invariably produce irregular groove patterns because human operators cannot maintain perfectly steady force and rotation speed. The ancient cores show no such variation. Their spiral grooves are as regular and precise as those produced by modern machine tools. The drill holes themselves are perfectly circular and maintain consistent diameter throughout their entire depth. Any wobble or misalignment in the drilling process would cause the hole to gradually widen or develop an oval shape. The ancient holes display none of these defects. They're as precisely aligned and geometrically perfect as holes produced by contemporary industrial drilling equipment. What makes these achievements particularly remarkable is the extreme hardness of granite. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, granite rates between 6 and 7. The copper and bronze tools available to ancient Egyptian craftsmen rate only 3 to 4 on the same scale. According to fundamental principles of materials science, it's impossible to cut a material using tools that are softer than the material itself. The standard archaeological explanation suggests that ancient craftsmen used copper tools with sand as an abrasive agent to gradually wear away the granite. However, experimental attempts to replicate ancient drilling using this proposed method have consistently failed. Modern researchers working with copper tools and sand abrasives achieve feed rates of only a few millimeters per revolution, while the ancient cores demonstrate feed rates more than 10 times faster. One researcher studying these anomalous drill holes discovered another troubling characteristic. The spiral grooves cut equally deep through both quartz and feldspar crystals within the granite. These minerals have significantly different hardness levels. Hand drilling would naturally cut through softer feldspar more quickly, creating uneven groove depths. The ancient grooves maintain perfectly uniform depth regardless of the mineral composition they encounter, suggesting a cutting process that worked equally effectively on materials of varying hardness. This characteristic is typical of modern diamond-tip drilling, but diamond cutting tools weren't available to ancient Egyptian craftsmen. Contemporary stoneworkers who have examined the ancient drill holes admit they would struggle to replicate such precision even with modern equipment. Creating perfectly circular, precisely aligned holes in granite requires sophisticated machinery, computer-controlled positioning systems, and diamond cutting tools. How ancient craftsmen achieved comparable or superior results using supposedly primitive implements remains completely unexplained by conventional archaeology. The evidence extends beyond individual drill holes to encompass entire stone structures that display manufacturing precision that challenges our understanding of ancient capabilities. Temple blocks weighing multiple tons show surface finishes that approach optical quality, with flatness measurements that rival modern precision machining. Joint tolerances between massive stone blocks are measured in fractions of millimeters, tighter than many contemporary construction projects achieve. These aren't isolated examples or exceptional cases that might be explained by extraordinary skill or fortunate accidents. The precision appears consistently across multiple sites, different time periods, and various ancient civilizations. The pattern suggests systematic access to advanced manufacturing techniques that conventional history insists didn't exist until the Industrial Revolution. When confronted with this evidence, the academic establishment typically responds with variations of the same explanation. Ancient craftsmen possessed unlimited time and developed extraordinary patience and skill through generations of practice. This explanation conveniently ignores the physical impossibilities involved. No amount of time or skill can overcome the fundamental materials science principle that softer tools cannot cut harder materials. Patience doesn't explain how bronze implements achieved cutting rates that challenge modern equipment. The systematic dismissal of evidence that challenges established historical timelines reveals an uncomfortable truth about how knowledge is controlled and disseminated. When physical artifacts demonstrate capabilities that don't fit approved narratives, the artifacts themselves aren't denied. Instead, their significance is minimized, their implications are explained away, and serious investigation is discouraged or prevented entirely. The Klerksdorp spheres. The pattern becomes even more disturbing when we examine artifacts that demonstrate not just advanced manufacturing techniques, but sophisticated understanding of complex scientific principles. Deep within South African mining operations, workers have discovered hundreds of metallic spheres embedded in rock formations dated to 2.8 billion years ago. This places their creation at a time when Earth's atmosphere lacked oxygen and only primitive bacterial life existed. Complex multicellular organisms wouldn't evolve for another 2 billion years, and humans wouldn't appear for nearly 3 billion years more. Yet these spheres display characteristics that suggest artificial manufacture rather than natural geological formation. The spheres measure between 1 and 4 inches in diameter, exhibiting perfectly spherical geometry with surface smoothness that suggests precision manufacturing rather than random geological processes. Most remarkably, several specimens display 3 parallel grooves running around their equatorial circumference. These lines are precisely spaced, perfectly parallel, and appear to have been machined rather than naturally formed. When geologists subjected the spheres to detailed analysis, they expected to discover some exotic but natural mineral formation that could explain their unusual appearance. Instead, they found something that defied every expectation. The spheres were composed of a nickel-steel alloy, a metal combination that simply doesn't occur naturally in the geological environment where they were discovered. Steel is fundamentally an artificial alloy requiring deliberate smelting processes to combine iron with carbon in specific proportions. The depth at which these spheres were found eliminates any possibility of recent origin. They were embedded within solid rock formations, often dozens of feet below the surface, in strata that had remained undisturbed for billions of years. The geological context is unambiguous. These objects were present when the rock layers were formed, placing their age at an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years. Museum curators who have cataloged these artifacts note their remarkably consistent dimensions and surface characteristics. Natural geological processes invariably produce variation and irregularity. The spheres display uniformity that suggests manufacture according to specific standards and tolerances. The parallel grooves are particularly problematic for natural formation theories, as geological processes don't create precise, evenly spaced parallel lines with the geometric perfection observed on these objects. The spheres also demonstrate extreme hardness, significantly exceeding that of the surrounding rock matrix. Their metallic composition and hardness characteristics don't match any known mineral that could have formed through natural processes during the geological period in question. The combination of artificial alloy composition, precision geometry, and impossible age creates a paradox that conventional geology cannot resolve. The official position maintains that these must be natural formations despite all evidence pointing toward artificial origin. Museums display them as geological curiosities without attempting to explain what natural process could have produced precision-machined metallic spheres billions of years before complex life existed on Earth. Mining operations continue to discover new specimens regularly, each one deepening the mystery and making natural explanations increasingly implausible. The Antikythera mechanism. From impossible metallurgy, we turn to an artifact that demonstrates mathematical and astronomical knowledge far beyond what ancient civilizations supposedly possessed. In 1901, Sponge divers working near the Greek island of Antikythera recovered what appeared to be corroded bronze fragments from an ancient shipwreck. For decades, these pieces sat in museum storage, dismissed as remnants of some simple navigational instrument or decorative object. Then X-ray analysis revealed the truth hidden within the corrosion. The bronze fragments contained an intricate mechanism of extraordinary complexity, featuring over 30 precisely cut gear wheels arranged in sophisticated mechanical assemblies. The gears were so finely crafted that their individual teeth could barely be discerned without magnification. This wasn't a simple device. It was an analog computer capable of performing astronomical calculations with accuracy that wouldn't be matched again for over 15 centuries. The mechanism's purpose became clear as researchers decoded its function. Users could turn an input crank, and the complex gear trains would compute the positions of the sun, moon, and known planets for any given date. The device could predict solar and lunar eclipses years in advance, track the complicated 235-month Metonic cycle used in ancient Greek calendars, and even calculate the dates of Olympic Games according to their 4-year schedule. What made the mechanism truly extraordinary wasn't just its computational ability, but the advanced engineering principles embedded in its construction. The gear ratios encoded sophisticated mathematical relationships discovered by ancient Greek astronomers, but the mechanical implementation required understanding of differential gearing techniques that historians believed weren't developed until the 16th century. The precision of gear cutting demonstrated both theoretical knowledge and manufacturing capabilities that seem impossible for the ancient world. Creating gears with such fine teeth and exact ratios requires extremely sophisticated metalworking equipment and measurement techniques. The miniaturization alone represents a remarkable achievement, with densely packed mechanical components arranged in a space smaller than a modern laptop computer. Modern attempts to reconstruct the mechanism using tools and techniques available to ancient craftsmen have struggled to match the precision of the original. The gear teeth are cut with mathematical exactness, the bearing surfaces are smoothed to reduce friction, and the overall assembly demonstrates engineering sophistication that rivals mechanical devices from the Renaissance period. The device proves that ancient Greek civilization possessed technological capabilities that subsequent cultures lost and wouldn't rediscover for over a millennium. Medieval European craftsmen would have considered this mechanism impossibly advanced, yet it was created in ancient Greece and apparently used routinely aboard merchant vessels. Ancient Greek texts mention other mechanical devices and automated machines, suggesting the Antikythera mechanism might not have been unique. It may simply be the only complex ancient computer that survived the passage of time. How many other sophisticated devices corroded into unrecognizable fragments or were melted down for their bronze content? The implications suggest that entire categories of ancient technology may have vanished without trace. The archaeological establishment treats the mechanism as an isolated anomaly, a singular example of ancient ingenuity that doesn't represent broader technological capabilities. This interpretation conveniently avoids confronting the possibility that ancient civilizations achieved levels of sophistication that challenge fundamental assumptions about historical progress. The Piri Reis map. Moving from computational devices to cartographic mysteries, we encounter evidence of geographical knowledge that predates supposed discovery by centuries. In 1929, scholars examining historical documents in a Turkish palace discovered a map that would challenge everything historians believed about early exploration and geographical knowledge. The map, created in 1513 by Ottoman naval commander Piri Reis, was compiled from approximately 20 older source charts. What the admiral produced showed geographical accuracy that supposedly didn't exist in the 16th century. The most controversial feature was his depiction of a southern continent that matched the coastline of Antarctica with remarkable precision. This presented an immediate problem. Antarctica wouldn't be officially discovered until 1820, more than 3 centuries after the map was drawn. Even more impossibly, the map showed Antarctic coastlines as they would appear without ice coverage, revealing bays, inlets, and geographical features currently buried under thousands of feet of glacial ice. When modern researchers compared Piri Reis' map to contemporary surveys, they discovered something extraordinary. The Antarctic coastline details match current knowledge with startling accuracy, but the projection was unusual, as if created using mathematical techniques that required sophisticated understanding of spherical geometry and trigonometry. The accuracy extended far beyond Antarctica. The map showed the Mediterranean, North Africa, South America, and various Atlantic islands with precision that approached modern standards. Relative positions of continents were correct, latitudes were accurate, and even small Caribbean islands were positioned with remarkable fidelity to their actual locations. What made this impossible was the source material. Piri Reis's own notations indicated he had compiled the map from ancient charts, some dating to the time of Alexander the Great. If these source maps contained accurate depictions of ice-free Antarctica, they must have been created during a narrow geological window when the continent wasn't covered by glacial ice. Current geological evidence suggests Antarctica has been ice-covered for millions of years, but there may have been periods of partial ice-free conditions. If the source maps depicted Antarctica during such a period, they were created by a civilization capable of sophisticated maritime exploration, navigation, and cartographic surveying at a time when such capabilities supposedly didn't exist. The United States Air Force Hydrographic Office confirmed in the 1960s that Piri Reis's map showed Antarctic coastlines with accuracy comparable to modern surveys. They acknowledged having no explanation for how a 16th-century map could contain geographical information that wasn't officially discovered until the 20th century. The systematic dismissal of such evidence reveals a disturbing pattern. When artifacts or documents demonstrate knowledge that predates its supposed discovery, the response isn't investigation, but explanation away. Rather than exploring the implications, academic institutions prefer to suggest coincidence, lucky guessing, or misinterpretation, rather than confronting evidence that challenges established timelines. Ancient acoustic engineering. These impossible objects share a common characteristic that makes them particularly troubling for conventional archaeology. They aren't ambiguous findings that could be interpreted multiple ways. They're concrete, measurable artifacts that demonstrate specific technological capabilities or knowledge that doesn't fit accepted historical narratives. The ancient battery produces measurable electrical current. The precision drilling shows quantifiable machining accuracy. The Antikythera mechanism contains functional gear trains that perform complex calculations. The Piri Reis map displays geographical accuracy confirmed by modern surveys. Each represents physical evidence that ancient civilizations possessed capabilities we don't fully understand. What's particularly significant is how these discoveries are handled by academic institutions. The artifacts aren't denied or dismissed as hoaxes. They're acknowledged to exist, photographed, analyzed, and published in scholarly journals. But their implications are consistently minimized rather than seriously investigated. The pattern is predictable. Initial skepticism gives way to grudging acknowledgement of authenticity. Then significance is downplayed through various explanations that avoid confronting the broader implications. Finally, investigation is quietly discouraged, while the artifacts are relegated to storage or display as curiosities rather than evidence of lost knowledge. This systematic avoidance of uncomfortable evidence raises profound questions about the nature of historical knowledge and how it's controlled. Science claims to follow evidence wherever it leads and remain open to unexpected discoveries. Yet artifacts that challenge established timelines face institutional resistance that prevents thorough investigation. The implications extend far beyond academic disputes over dating and attribution. If these objects represent genuine evidence of advanced ancient capabilities, they suggest human civilization has experienced multiple cycles of technological achievement and loss. Our species may have reached remarkable heights of knowledge and sophistication repeatedly throughout history, only to lose those advances through warfare, natural disasters, or cultural collapse. Rather than steady progression from primitive to advanced, human development may follow a cyclical pattern of rise and fall, with each cycle potentially reaching different peaks of achievement in different areas. The artifacts we've examined might be surviving fragments from previous peaks in this cycle. Physical evidence of capabilities that were mastered, lost, and had to be painfully rediscovered over centuries or millennia. The refusal to seriously investigate these anomalies becomes even more troubling when we examine acoustic engineering that demonstrates understanding of sound physics that supposedly didn't exist for millennia. Hidden within ancient ruins across multiple civilizations are stone chambers carved with acoustic properties so sophisticated They wouldn't be duplicated until modern concert hall design emerged in the 20th century. These aren't accidental acoustic effects that happen to occur during construction. They're precisely engineered spaces that amplify specific frequencies, eliminate unwanted echoes, and create sound phenomena that require deep understanding of wave physics and harmonic resonance. The mathematical precision involved in their design suggests knowledge of acoustic principles that mainstream archaeology insists wasn't available to ancient builders. One extensively studied example is a chamber carved entirely from limestone that demonstrates properties that baffle modern acoustic engineers. When researchers conducted sound tests within the space, they discovered the room resonates powerfully at exactly 110 Hz, a precise frequency that causes the entire chamber to vibrate perceptibly when that tone is played. Modern acoustic engineers analyzing the chamber found its design shouldn't produce such effects according to established principles of sound behavior. The dimensions, angles, and surface treatments work together to create acoustic phenomena that require sophisticated understanding of how sound waves interact with physical spaces. Creating this response accidentally would be extraordinarily improbable. The specific frequency is particularly intriguing because neurological research shows 110 Hz affects brain activity in measurable ways. Electroencephalogram measurements of people exposed to this frequency reveal changes in brainwave patterns with increased activity in regions associated with emotional processing and altered consciousness states. Were ancient designers deliberately incorporating these neurological effects into their acoustic engineering? Other chambers throughout the ancient world displayed different but equally sophisticated properties. Some amplify whispered sounds, allowing quiet conversations to be heard clearly across large distances. Others eliminate echoes completely, creating acoustically dead spaces that modern recording studios struggle to achieve. Still others selectively amplify certain frequency ranges while dampening others, providing natural sound filtering that requires complex engineering calculations. In one remarkable chamber, researchers discovered the space responds differently to male and female voices, amplifying lower frequency ranges typically associated with male speech while reducing higher frequencies more common in female voices. Creating this selective response requires understanding of frequency analysis and harmonic filtering that represents the kind of sophisticated acoustic design found in contemporary concert halls and audio engineering facilities. The precision of construction suggests acoustic properties were primary design considerations rather than fortunate accidents. Chamber walls are carved to exact smoothness specifications. Angles are cut with mathematical precision. Room dimensions follow specific proportions that optimize desired acoustic behaviors. This represents engineered construction aimed at achieving particular sound characteristics through deliberate design choices. Modern attempts to replicate these acoustic properties have consistently struggled to match ancient achievements. Engineers using computer modeling software and contemporary construction techniques find it difficult to recreate the sophisticated sound effects that ancient chambers produce naturally. The precision required exceeds what should have been possible without advanced understanding of acoustic theory and wave physics. What makes this particularly puzzling is how ancient builders would have discovered and refined these acoustic properties. Creating chambers with specific resonant frequencies requires understanding complex relationships between room geometry, construction materials, and sound wavelength calculations. The trial and error process needed to develop such knowledge would have required extensive experimentation and mathematical analysis. The chambers also demonstrate acoustic isolation techniques that prevent sound transfer to surrounding spaces. Thick walls and carefully designed air gaps block external noise interference, principles that modern recording studios employ but that ancient builders supposedly lack the theoretical knowledge to understand or implement effectively. Ancient crystal artifacts. From acoustic engineering marvels, we turn to crystal artifacts that demonstrate precision manufacturing capabilities that challenge modern gem-cutting techniques. Scattered across ancient archaeological sites are quartz and crystal objects carved with accuracy that contemporary craftsmen struggle to replicate using advanced equipment and diamond-tipped tools. These aren't crude ceremonial objects roughly shaped for symbolic purposes. They're optically perfect lenses, precisely formed spheres, and mechanical components machined to tolerances measured in micrometers. The surfaces display finish quality that approaches laboratory standards, completely free from tool marks or manufacturing defects that would be inevitable using primitive hand tools. Quartz crystal presents particular manufacturing challenges because of its extreme hardness. Rating 7 on the Mohs scale, it's harder than any metal available to ancient civilizations. Working quartz effectively requires cutting tools that exceed the material's hardness, typically diamond-tipped implements operating at high rotational speeds with carefully controlled pressure and cooling. Modern analysis of ancient crystal artifacts reveals surface finishes polished to optical quality, displaying microscopic smoothness that eliminates light scattering and distortion. Achieving this level of precision requires specific polishing compounds, controlled pressure application, and finishing techniques that supposedly weren't developed until modern precision manufacturing emerged. One researcher studying ancient crystal objects discovered unmistakable evidence of rotary cutting techniques. The artifacts showed perfectly circular cuts with consistent widths and depths that could only be produced by powered rotary tools operating at steady speeds. Hand tools invariably produce slight irregularities and varying cut depths because human operators cannot maintain perfectly consistent pressure and movement. Crystal spheres present even greater manufacturing mysteries. Multiple ancient cultures created perfectly spherical quartz objects that demonstrate geometric precision, challenging contemporary manufacturing capabilities. Creating true spheres from hard crystal requires extremely precise material removal, with mathematical calculations to ensure uniform thickness and perfect sphericity throughout the shaping process. When researchers subjected ancient crystal spheres to precision measurement using coordinate measuring machines, they found sphericity within tolerances that approach modern manufacturing standards. The objects deviate from perfect spherical geometry by margins so small they require sophisticated measurement equipment to detect. Modern gem cutters attempting to replicate ancient crystal artifacts using only hand tools and period-appropriate abrasives have consistently failed to match the precision and surface quality of the originals. Their reproductions show tool marks, surface irregularities, and geometric imperfections that are completely absent from ancient specimens. Perhaps most remarkable are crystal artifacts displaying internal features that suggest even more advanced manufacturing capabilities. Some objects contain carved internal channels and suspended geometric elements that required selective material removal from within solid crystal blocks without damaging surrounding areas. This represents three-dimensional precision machining of extraordinary sophistication. The optical quality of certain ancient crystal objects rivals modern precision lenses. Crystal pieces show correct spherical curvature for light-focusing applications, with optical surfaces precisely shaped and polished to eliminate chromatic aberration and distortion. When tested under laboratory conditions, these artifacts demonstrate optical properties matching contemporary precision optics manufactured for scientific instruments. The manufacturing precision suggests ancient craftsmen possessed detailed knowledge of crystal structure and working properties. Evidence indicates they understood how to exploit natural crystal formations and work with material characteristics in ways that demonstrate sophisticated materials science knowledge. Official explanations for crystal artifact precision typically invoke patience and accumulated skill. Ancient craftsmen supposedly had unlimited time and developed extraordinary abilities through generations of practice. This explanation conveniently ignores physical limitations imposed by materials science. No amount of patience creates microscopically perfect surfaces when working harder materials with softer tools. The systematic dismissal of evidence pointing toward advanced ancient manufacturing capabilities follows the same pattern observed with other anomalous artifacts. Physical evidence is acknowledged, but implications are minimized through explanations that avoid confronting broader questions about lost technological knowledge. Roman concrete technology. Moving from precision manufacturing to materials science, we encounter Roman concrete technology that demonstrates chemical understanding superior to modern capabilities. Roman structures built 2,000 years ago continue standing today, while contemporary concrete buildings begin deteriorating within decades. The Romans created concrete formulations that actually grow stronger over time, especially in marine environments, properties that modern engineers cannot replicate, despite having access to advanced chemical analysis and controlled manufacturing processes. The most impressive examples are Roman harbor installations, piers and breakwaters that have withstood 2 millennia of seawater exposure while continuing to gain structural strength. Modern marine concrete typically begins showing degradation within decades of installation. Roman marine concrete has undergone ongoing chemical reactions that strengthen the material through mineral crystal formation that fills microscopic cracks and binds the structure more tightly together. Microscopic examination of Roman marine concrete reveals continuing chemical processes occurring over centuries. Seawater reacting with volcanic ash and lime components creates new crystalline structures that enhance material properties rather than causing deterioration. The reactions appear to be self-reinforcing, with each chemical cycle contributing to overall structural improvement. Modern concrete represents precisely controlled chemistry, with exact ingredient proportions and carefully monitored curing processes. Yet it remains fundamentally inferior to Roman concrete in terms of longevity and environmental resistance. Contemporary concrete develops stress cracks over time and degrades rapidly when exposed to saltwater environments. The key to Roman concrete's superior properties lies in specific volcanic ash selection, particular lime types, and mineral aggregate combinations. This required sophisticated understanding of material chemistry and chemical reactions, suggesting extensive empirical research and systematic experimentation to develop optimal formulations. Roman concrete production also offered significant environmental advantages over modern Portland cement manufacturing. The Roman process required lower firing temperatures, resulting in substantially reduced carbon emissions while producing superior material properties. Ancient Romans achieved better results using less energy and creating fewer environmental impacts. Modern attempts to recreate authentic Roman concrete using ancient formulations have produced mixed results. Recent research has developed concrete showing initial self-healing properties, but achieving full strength and durability characteristics requires precise environmental conditions that Romans apparently understood through practical experience rather than theoretical knowledge. The loss of Roman concrete technology represents one of history's most significant technological regressions. For over a millennium following Rome's collapse, European builders couldn't create structures approaching Roman quality or longevity. Rediscovery of Roman concrete chemistry has occurred only through advanced analytical techniques including electron microscopy and molecular-level chemical analysis. Ancient Romans achieved equivalent results through empirical observation and systematic experimentation, developing superior materials without access to modern scientific instruments or theoretical chemistry. Their practical knowledge surpassed contemporary understanding in fundamental ways that modern science is only beginning to appreciate. Ancient South American aircraft models. From superior materials to impossible transportation technology, we encounter evidence suggesting ancient civilizations possessed flight capabilities that conventional archaeology refuses to acknowledge. Pre-Columbian artifacts discovered throughout South America include small golden objects that bear striking resemblances to modern aircraft rather than any known animal forms. These artifacts display streamlined fuselages, triangular wing configurations with upward angled tips, and vertical tail stabilizers positioned for directional control. When examined by aeronautical engineers, the objects demonstrate principles of aircraft design that optimize flight stability and control characteristics. The objects were initially cataloged as zoomorphic art representing stylized birds or insects. However, detailed analysis revealed they don't match anatomical features of any known flying creatures. Instead, they correspond precisely to aircraft design principles that enhance flight performance through specific geometric relationships and proportional arrangements. The wing positioning relative to center of gravity follows aerodynamic principles that provide flight stability. The triangular wing shape with upward angled tips creates dihedral angle effects that automatically correct flight disturbances. The vertical tail stabilizer placement provides directional control authority. Each design feature serves specific aerodynamic functions that improve flight characteristics. To test these observations, aeronautical engineers constructed scaled-up models following exact proportions of the ancient objects. Wind tunnel testing revealed excellent flight characteristics with stable, controllable behavior that exceeded expectations for such simple designs. The models demonstrated natural stability and responsive control that would be desirable in actual aircraft. Flight testing of powered scale models confirmed the aerodynamic effectiveness of the ancient designs. The models flew straight and stable with responsive control characteristics that made them easy to pilot. The ancient designs weren't merely sculptures that coincidentally resembled aircraft. They represented accurate depictions of functional flying machine configurations. The cultural context adds intriguing dimensions to these discoveries. Civilizations that created these objects maintained extensive mythologies describing flying vehicles and sky gods who traveled through the air. Ancient texts contain detailed descriptions of aerial vehicles that could transport people across great distances. Were these purely mythological concepts or cultural memories of actual technological capabilities? Critics argue the resemblance to aircraft represents coincidental similarity rather than evidence of ancient flight technology. This explanation struggles with the specificity of aerodynamic features and the successful flight testing of scaled replicas. The dihedral wing angles, center of gravity positioning, and control surface arrangements each represent deliberate design choices that enhance flight performance. The official archaeological position maintains these objects represent stylized animal forms despite clear aerodynamic functionality and successful flight demonstrations. This dismissal follows the established pattern of minimizing evidence that challenges conventional historical timelines, rather than investigating implications that might require fundamental revision of our understanding of ancient capabilities. We've covered 9 impossible objects so far, but the final discovery might be the most mind-bending of all. Before we reveal it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos where we continue to explore mysteries that challenge mainstream history. Now let's dive into our final impossible object: ancient natural nuclear reactors. The final impossible object we examine takes us deep into African mining operations, where workers have discovered evidence of controlled nuclear reactions that occurred naturally 2 billion years ago. In 1972, scientists analyzing uranium ore samples found isotope ratios indicating nuclear fission had taken place under natural conditions long before complex life existed on Earth. Further investigation revealed something even more extraordinary. The reactor zones showed evidence of sophisticated design, with specific geometries and mineral distributions that optimized nuclear reactions while preventing dangerous criticality accidents. The natural formations achieved nuclear engineering principles that require careful calculation and deliberate arrangement. The discovery occurred during routine isotope analysis when technicians found uranium depleted in fissile U-235, the isotope consumed during nuclear chain reactions. Investigation revealed natural uranium concentrations, groundwater moderation, and geological arrangements had created conditions allowing sustained nuclear fission over hundreds of thousands of years. Geological study of reactor zones revealed remarkable optimization characteristics. The uranium ore bodies were arranged in configurations that sustained controlled reactions while maintaining safety margins that prevented runaway chain reactions. Surrounding rock formations contained neutron-absorbing minerals that regulated reaction rates automatically. Most extraordinary were signs the reactors operated in self-regulating cycles. Nuclear reactions would continue until heat buildup evaporated groundwater, stopping the chain reaction. As temperatures cooled, water would return, and reactions would restart. This cycling continued over geological timescales, maintaining controlled fission without human intervention. The geometry of reactor zones particularly impressed nuclear engineers. Uranium formations displayed specific shapes and spatial arrangements optimal for sustaining controlled nuclear reactions. Some zones were cylindrical, others showed layered configurations. Each arrangement was ideally suited for maintaining critical mass while preventing dangerous power excursions. Surrounding each reactor zone were mineral deposits serving specific nuclear engineering functions. Graphite formations acted as neutron reflectors, maintaining reaction efficiency. Boron-containing minerals absorbed excess neutrons, providing automatic reaction control. Clay layers created containment barriers. Each element served essential purposes in maintaining controlled fission reactions. The sophistication astonished nuclear engineers familiar with reactor design requirements. Creating functional nuclear reactors requires precise calculations of neutron physics, criticality margins, moderation effects, and control mechanisms. The natural formations achieved all these requirements through geological arrangements that appeared almost engineered. Some researchers have proposed the reactors weren't entirely natural phenomena, suggesting ancient civilizations deliberately constructed or modified geological formations to create controlled nuclear reaction zones. This explanation faces the insurmountable problem that the reactors operated 2 billion years ago, long before complex life existed. The alternative explanation that nature randomly created optimized nuclear reactor geometries through purely geological processes seems equally improbable. The configurations display too much sophistication, and the control mechanisms appear too deliberately arranged for random formation. Official scientific position maintains the reactors represent entirely natural phenomena, despite engineering sophistication that challenges natural formation theories. Nuclear engineers who study the formations often express private doubts about purely natural explanations. The optimization appears too perfect and the safety systems too sophisticated for accidental geological arrangement. These 10 artifacts share one undeniable characteristic. They demonstrate capabilities that don't align with conventional understanding of when such technologies were developed. Each object represents concrete physical evidence that can be measured, analyzed, and tested. The ancient battery produces electrical current. The precision drilling shows machining accuracy. The acoustic chambers create sophisticated sound effects. Each proves ancient civilizations possessed knowledge we're only beginning to understand. What makes these discoveries particularly significant is how they're handled by academic institutions. The artifacts aren't dismissed as hoaxes or denied to exist. They're acknowledged, documented, and often displayed in museums. But their implications are consistently minimized rather than thoroughly investigated. The pattern reveals institutional resistance to evidence that challenges established historical narratives. The message becomes unmistakable. Physical evidence that contradicts approved timelines faces systematic discouragement rather than open scientific inquiry. Some questions are apparently too dangerous to pursue because they might require fundamental revision of how we understand human development and technological progress. These impossible objects raise profound questions about the nature of human advancement. Rather than steady progression from primitive to sophisticated, our species may have achieved remarkable technological heights multiple times throughout history, only to lose that knowledge through catastrophic events, cultural collapse, or deliberate suppression. The artifacts we've examined might represent surviving fragments from previous cycles of human achievement, physical proof that advanced knowledge was mastered, lost, and had to be painstakingly rediscovered over centuries. If this cyclical pattern of rise and fall characterizes human development, then our current technological civilization may not represent the first time our species has reached such capabilities. The systematic refusal to investigate these anomalies suggests powerful interests prefer maintaining established narratives rather than exploring evidence that might reveal uncomfortable truths about human potential and lost knowledge. The artifacts exist, their advanced properties can be measured and verified, but their implications remain carefully ignored by institutions responsible for understanding our past. Perhaps most disturbing is what this pattern of suppression reveals about the control of knowledge itself. When physical artifacts demonstrate capabilities that challenge approved historical narratives, the response isn't scientific curiosity, but institutional resistance. The objects are acknowledged to exist, photographed for documentation, and then quietly relegated to storage where their implications can be safely contained. This systematic avoidance suggests that our understanding of human development isn't based purely on evidence, but on maintaining narratives that support current power structures. If ancient civilizations possessed advanced technologies that were subsequently lost, it raises uncomfortable questions about the fragility of progress and the possibility that knowledge can be deliberately erased. The implications extend far beyond academic disputes over dating and attribution. If these artifacts represent genuine evidence of lost technological capabilities, they suggest human civilization operates in cycles rather than following linear progression. Our species may have reached extraordinary heights of achievement multiple times throughout history, only to lose those advances through warfare, natural disasters, or systematic destruction of knowledge. Consider the broader pattern. Roman concrete technology was superior to modern formulations, yet was lost for over a millennium. The Antikythera mechanism represented computational sophistication that wouldn't be matched for 15 centuries. Ancient precision drilling achieved results that challenge contemporary equipment. Each example demonstrates that technological regression isn't just possible, it's historically documented. The cyclical nature of human advancement becomes even more apparent when we examine the consistent characteristics of these impossible objects. They don't represent crude attempts at technology that accidentally resembled more advanced devices. They demonstrate sophisticated understanding of complex principles that required extensive research and development to master. The ancient battery wasn't a simple accident that happened to produce electrical current. It was deliberately designed using specific materials and configurations that optimized electrical output. The precision drilling wasn't the result of patient handwork. It required understanding of materials science and access to advanced cutting tools. The acoustic chambers weren't fortunate accidents. They incorporated sophisticated knowledge of wave physics and harmonic resonance. Each artifact represents the endpoint of extensive technological development rather than primitive experimentation. This suggests the civilizations that created them had already mastered the underlying scientific principles and manufacturing techniques necessary for such sophisticated achievements. They weren't struggling to understand basic concepts. They were applying advanced knowledge that had been developed over considerable time periods. What makes this realization particularly unsettling is the systematic nature of knowledge loss that followed. These weren't isolated technologies that disappeared through neglect or lack of interest. They represent entire categories of advanced capability that vanished so completely that subsequent civilizations had to rediscover fundamental principles from scratch. The loss appears almost deliberate in its thoroughness. Not only did the physical artifacts disappear, but the theoretical knowledge required to create them was erased as well. The mathematical understanding, the materials science, the manufacturing techniques all vanished, leaving only scattered physical evidence that modern science struggles to explain. This pattern suggests knowledge destruction wasn't accidental, but systematic. Someone or some institution had both the motivation and capability to eliminate entire technological traditions so completely that their existence became impossible to believe. The artifacts survived only because they were buried, hidden, or otherwise protected from whatever forces eliminated the knowledge systems that created them. The contemporary handling of these discoveries follows suspiciously similar patterns. When artifacts demonstrate capabilities that challenge established narratives, investigation is discouraged rather than encouraged. Funding disappears, academic papers face rejection, and researchers find their work blocked through institutional resistance. The same forces that eliminated ancient knowledge appear to operate today, preventing serious inquiry into evidence that might reveal uncomfortable truths. Modern institutions claim to value scientific inquiry and evidence-based understanding, yet their response to anomalous artifacts suggests otherwise. When physical evidence contradicts approved historical timelines, the evidence is minimized rather than investigated. The message becomes clear that some questions are too dangerous to pursue because they might reveal knowledge that powerful interests prefer to keep hidden. If these impossible objects have you questioning what else we've been told about history, you need to check out our previous video, 10 Conspiracy Theories That Turned Out to Be True. We exposed the hidden truths that were once dismissed as crazy theories, but were eventually proven real. The pattern of suppression you've seen today isn't new. It's been happening for decades. Click the video on your screen right now to see what other conspiracies turned out to be documented fact. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we uncover the next piece of hidden history. Until next time, when we find out how.